Welcome to Watch the Bookerman and to Impact Wrestling Sacrifice 2012, a hugely significant pay-per-view in this series, not only because it is the penultimate pay-per-view that we will be booking ahead of Slammiversary 2012, the final show in this save, but also because it features the debut and return to a professional wrestling ring of Brock Lesnar as he faces the toughest possible challenge. If you're coming back to professional wrestling, there is one man you would want to avoid, and that is Kurt Angle. We see also a good card built around that, but it'd be foolish to suggest that this isn't almost entirely built and sold on the fact that it is Brock Lesnar returning to professional wrestling. He hasn't, of course, competed in a wrestling ring since 2007. Something else that I noticed before we get into this pay-per-view actually is that while almost every other pay-per-view that we've booked has ended with either a TNA or Impact Wrestling World Championship match, Sacrifice, all three pay-per-views that we've run, have not featured an Impact World Championship match or a TNA World Championship match in the main event. So we had an unsanctioned match in 2011, Bobby Lashley and Kurt Angle teaming up before their match that also featured Bryan Danielson in the main event of Slammiversary, and also an unsanctioned match featuring Bobby Lashley against AJ Styles at Sacrifice 2010. So perhaps that says something about booking patterns that I have. We will now go into Sacrifice 2012, but the pay-per-view of course starts with hyping that main event match. A really great video package that follows the usual motifs of Sacrifice and the challenges that each of the wrestlers face. 90% of the focus is on Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. The build, a pretty in-depth video package we want here, just looking at everything that's happened from Brock Lesnar returning last month and kind of giving Kurt the cold shoulder to go after Jeff Hardy. With the Impact World Champion then out of action, Kurt Angle challenged Brock Lesnar, and that match was eventually accepted by Paul Heyman on behalf of Brock Lesnar. We also see that both men arrived earlier today, Kurt Angle on his own, while Brock Lesnar was flanked, as always, by Paul Heyman. It's a fantastic way to start the pay-per-view, despite the commentators not quite delivering, but they do everything in their power as we pan the packed building to put over this huge main event. While the focus is on that, we do still have 7 other matches on the card, and we open with probably the worst bill and most impromptu on there, but still a good rating, an 81. Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal teaming for the first time after Jay Lethal proposed that they form a tag team, but with Maria at ringside trying to call the shots. Jay Lethal seemed happy for her to do that. When Samoa Joe's there also, he does not like this. There is then a lot of disagreements. Joe getting in the face of Maria, really angry with her trying to give advice to two people who of course won many championships in their career, and eventually he's just had enough. He tells Jay, listen to your wife Maria, but I've had enough of this, and he walks off. Jay Lethal, it's then a strange situation where the heel is left outnumbered by the babyfaces, but Frankie Kazarian gets a pinfall victory back over Jay Lethal. The result was the other way around when they had a singles match, but a Fade to Black sees Bad Influence pick up the victory, albeit with the huge caveat of Samoa Joe walking out on his partner. He did carry the match in terms of the in-ring performance while he was there. After the match, we see Daniels and Kazarian stood tall. Jay Lethal is dejected after Samoa Joe, the guy who he thought he may be on the brink of forming a tag team with, and I think that tag team would have done really good things for Jay Lethal's career, but due to the actions of Maria, he simply couldn't stick around, and it looks like we will not be getting a tag team between those two after all. We then get an interview, JB asking Alyssa Flash and Sara Del Rey their thoughts on the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Tag Team Championship #1 contendership Battle Royal up next. That's a mouthful. The champions put over their belief that the fact that this match even has to happen in the first place shows that Impact Wrestling knows that there are no two women, certainly not a women's tag team, on their level in this business. They're ready, of course, to face whoever wins tonight at Slammiversary, and they will look forward to beating them and whoever they may pick as their partner. We then go into a 15 knockouts battle royal. It was originally supposed to be 10, but we had a few more people in the roster, and I thought it's unfair to leave maybe 2 or 3 of the women out. So what we did instead was brought in a couple of people who we haven't seen for some time. Shelly Martinez from the local workers screen, and Lindsay Kay, formerly known as Isis the Amazon. She had a match at Slammiversary last year, I think actually, against Awesome Kong, where it was supposed to be the two giants colliding, but we've not done a great deal with her since, so this is perhaps a surprise return for her. Mickie James, Sarita and Lindsay Kay are the last 3 women in the ring at the end of the match, and it comes down to Mickie and Lindsay Kay after Lindsay eliminates Rosita, and it looks like it's going to be too much for Mickie to overcome. She does eventually manage somehow to get Lindsay Kay out of the ring. Tara, however, was not eliminated. She went through the middle rope when she left the ring earlier, and from behind that common battle royal trope, she comes up when Mickie James isn't expecting it, throwing her out, and Tara, who therefore pips the most eliminations in the match, also wins this battle royal in 11 minutes and 4, securing her place on Slammiversary. And if you've been following in recent weeks, you may have an idea of who she is likely to pick. Mickie James has a strong connection with the female demographic who really liked her winning. Now, unless I'm misreading, it definitely says that Tara won a battle royal there. I don't know, that's obviously a bug that's not ever been captured. It's a 62 rating, which is okay. After the match, Alyssa Flash and Sarah Ray come to the top of the ramp, taking a microphone, and they want to know who Tara will be teaming with to face them at Slammiversary, but they're treating it almost like it's a foregone conclusion. Tara takes a microphone from ringside and tells Flash and Del Rey that this isn't their moment. Tonight is about her victory and nothing else. She outlasted 14 knockouts, and she's going to outlast both of them when it comes to Slammiversary. Tara then turns to Mickie James, who is recovering on the outside with a big smile on her face. She's going to happily announce who her partner is this Thursday on Impact Wrestling, and she thinks that the whole division better watch closely, especially her best friend, Mickie James. So very sarcastic and glib from Tara there. Mickie James and Tara ride again is the name of that storyline, but will that be what is confirmed this Thursday on Impact Wrestling? It seems like Tara even wants to prolong this torture, and we'll see what happens on this Thursday show. Jim Cornette is then interviewed by Jeremy Borash before Charlie Haas's X Division Championship defense against Amazing Red up next. Cornette puts over Haas as he so often does, calling him the most complete athlete in Impact Wrestling. JB also asked Cornette for his thoughts on the main event, given that he has worked closely with both Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle before. As Cornette puts that match over, he is distracted by something that he appears to see out of the corner of his eye. The camera then pans away to see what it is that he's momentarily transfixed on, and JB also asked Cornette what he saw. We then return to Cornette, who is shaking his head. He says he must be seeing things, he must be getting something mistaken in his head. Whatever happens tonight, the focus should be on Charlie Haas and the X Division Championship, and he's confident that he's going to pick up the victory over Amazing Red. Now we go into the X Division Championship match. It's a good match. Charlie Haas with a 42 there. I'm pretty sure that's because I booked this as a high spots match, and it's because despite Charlie Haas being the champion, we want this match to be a spotlight of Amazing Red. He's had a good build up in the last couple of months, so we wanted this match to be very much a showcase of his ability, and perhaps the idea that Haas has taken Amazing Red lightly. He thought he'd be able to overpower him and outwork him on a technical basis, but Amazing Red is too fast, he is too resilient, and he almost gets a roll-up victory. This is where Jim Cornette, who has joined the commentary position, then comes out and tries to get involved, but he is thrown out eventually by the referee. However, this appears to be somewhat of a plot, as when Amazing Red has gone up to the top rope, he is crotched by Adam Pearce, who pulls his leg. Of course, Pearce has been working closely with Jim Cornette recently, and this allows Charlie Haas to take control, and it says a pinfall victory there, so I don't know, I'm not sure. I probably should have still put the submission victory in there, but the point is that Charlie Haas makes a successful defense of the Impact X Division Championship, so perhaps we've got Amazing Red going for a springboard move rather than going to the top rope, and Pearce grabs his leg and crotches him. Red then stumbles back into the ring, and Haas is able to get him in some sort of tight roll up that means that he picks up the victory, something like that. But it is a victory, albeit very, very tainted for Charlie Haas, and I do think that despite his poor rating, that is because he was forced for the majority of the match to work as the base for Amazing Red's impressive high-flying offense. Charlie Haas then stands tall in the ring, having screwed Amazing Red out of his opportunity at the X Division Championship. The man who started this save as the X Division Champion, Amazing Red, he will not be going into Slammiversary with the title, as Charlie Haas is handed his championship belt. That was a difficult sentence to say. On the outside, a smug Adam Pearce applauds wrestling's greatest, pleased to have got a little bit of comeuppance on Amazing Red, who beat him this past Thursday on Impact Wrestling. A very, very smug figure we are building with Adam Pearce here, and it's not exactly their partners or anything, but it's that Adam Pearce is working on behalf of Jim Cornette, or working with Jim Cornette, and of course has issues with Amazing Red, and is looking to gain the favour of the stoic and intense Charlie Haas. Despite this confident demeanour, Jim Cornette then comes back out from the back, and we think that he's going to celebrate with Charlie Haas, but he's not got a smile on his face. He's shaking his head. He looks like he's seen a ghost, and he just shouts to Charlie Haas, "He's here." Adam Pearce is confused, Charlie Haas is confused, until a brand new theme song hits, and Shelton Benjamin makes his return to Impact Wrestling. He hasn't been seen since he was injured at Destination X by Charlie Haas. Cornette gets himself out the way as Pearce heads up the ramp to confront Shelton Benjamin, only to be taken down by a super kick. When Shelton reaches the ring, Haas wildly swings the X Division Championship at him, but Benjamin ducks. Benjamin is going for that super kick, but Haas is able to back up and escape through the ropes. He heads up the ramp as Shelton Benjamin stands tall in the ring, but it's clear that he is back for one man, and that is the X Division champion, Charlie Haas. The two have, of course, faced off twice before. Once was that humiliating defeat for Charlie Haas, 2 minutes that Shelton Benjamin beat him in, but since being able to get rid of Shelton Benjamin at Destination X, Charlie Haas has gone from strength to strength, the first of the two to become a champion in the company, and after a couple of years struggling in the tag team division, he is a singles champion, but has a huge issue in front of him, because despite what he thought, Shelton Benjamin was not taken out for good back in March. We then go into the Impact World Tag Team Championships match, and Wolfe is the more strategic of the two defending champions. Danielson, in recent months, we've seen him go a little bit more wild off his normal focused game plan, and it is Wolfe who is continually reining him in. Now, initially, Danielson does not like this. He's steaming him and ended up in trouble because he's trying to take on all of the other guys on his own, and it actually comes to a point where Danielson is nearly pinned once by Jay Briscoe and once by Robert Roode, and it is Desmond Wolfe who saves him on both occasions. Not only that, but when Danielson is up for a third time in a Briscoe device, he is able to stop that move from happening by pushing Jay from the top turnbuckle. He then gets himself in the ring and is able to pin Mark Briscoe with a jawbreaker lariat. So very much the more level-headed Wolfe saving the team time and time again, and whether Danielson likes him or not, it's getting to the point where, because of how good Desmond Wolfe has been for the team in the last couple of months, there's no choice but for him to accept it. Now, Brian does have a gimmick that's getting stale. It's something that I don't really keep on top as much as I should do, just because I prefer to stick with probably a decent but stale gimmick than risk ending up with Danielson having a poor gimmick. He's still getting a 94, so I don't really need to worry too much about changing anything. We get the crowd buzzing in what I have no doubt would have been an incredible match. It was steal the show. And after the match, as the Impact World Tag Team Championships are brought back into the ring by the referee, Danielson grabs both titles from the referee and quite graciously hands one to Desmond Wolfe, and we're putting this across as a potential sign of respect. Now, he's not going over the top, he's not hugging Wolfe, he's not saying thank you or anything like that, but it is showing somewhat of a crack in the armour of the previously defensive Bryan Danielson, and the idea here is perhaps, despite them obviously never going to be friends, he is warming up a little bit to Desmond Wolfe and seeing how vital he has been to this team. Danielson has at times wanted to do things alone, but it's become ever more clear as this championship reign's continued that he needs Wolfe just as much as Wolfe needs him. We then get a short video package that looks at the history or the story of Awesome Kong and Rosita. It began months ago when Awesome Kong, looking for a new partner, plucked Rosita from relative obscurity to replace the injured Aja Kong, who'd been taken out by Hamada. So it's interesting that a lot of these things are coming full circle and all coming together at Sacrifice. Despite enjoying a successful championship reign, a defeat at Lockdown saw Awesome Kong switch on Rosita, and a number of brutal attacks have followed. Undeterred, and despite the warnings of her friends and colleagues, Rosita still made the challenge to Awesome Kong to face her tonight. Now, I'd argue that there's never been a more sort of certain result of a pay-per-view match as Awesome Kong in an extremely short but decent match. It's a really good performance from Awesome Kong. That's the more important thing for me. It's only a 59. It was only ever going to be something like that with it being 5 minutes. Awesome Kong defeats Rosita with a sit-out powerbomb. Now, 5 minutes sounds really short, and it is very, very one-sided in terms of the offense, but we have a number of occasions where it looks like the match is over and Rosita kicks out, so we're definitely putting over her resilience. She's so much smaller than Kong. It's a match that on paper should maybe have only taken 2 minutes, so the fact that it's 5 minutes we are trying to put across as being a reasonably good showing from Rosita, in that she didn't give up, she didn't stay down, but eventually it was simply too much, and Awesome Kong stands tall. Now she's back as a heel, we really want to put over that this is the most violent and dangerous that she has looked, and while Rosita had fight and we know that she's somebody who can really sell that offense very well, she was no match for Awesome Kong. We then catch up with Samoa Joe in the back after he walked out on Jay Lethal earlier in the night. It looks like he may be ready himself to leave the building, and the Samoan Submission Machine is asked about his decision to walk out on Lethal earlier in the night. Samoa Joe is furious and tells the cameras to get out of his face. He's basically surprised that they even remember his name, since all he's been asked about recently by these cameras, by people in the back, is about what's going on with the one person he's been specifically asked not to talk about. Maybe he should do the same. Maybe he shouldn't just walk out on Jay Lethal. He should walk out of this company and not come back. Joe then starts to walk off. Before turning back, he seems to have had another idea. Maybe he should take a leaf out of Brock Lesnar's book. Maybe it's his turn to overshadow the main event of the pay-per-view. Joe then continues, and although it's unclear whether he is going to walk out the building or whether he's going to stay, Samoa Joe is clearly very, very unhappy. He does well going off script, and he has a hot catchphrase, so whatever that catchphrase is somehow wedged in to that promo. But the point being that this is a very, very unhappy Samoa Joe, and his unnamed friend who has walked out on the company, well, maybe he'll be joining him on the sidelines. We then get a quick video package that looks forward to AJ Styles and Tyler Black versus Austin Aries and Brodie Lee, and it's basically telling us how this unlikely alliance of AJ Styles and Tyler Black, some would say two very, very similar guys in terms of them being innovative, high-flying wrestlers and at the very, very peak of their own respective generations. In terms of their backstories and how they've got to this point, they are very, very different indeed. The video package highlights the decimation of the New Age Originals. Jimmy Jacobs, Claudio Castagnoli, and finally Chris Hero were all taken out of action in violent manner by the powerful and violent Big Rig Brodie Lee. AJ Styles was then left to fight that group alone, but eventually found a partner, as Tyler Black was the first of the group to be fit to return to competition. He had weeks earlier been thrown off the stage by Brodie Lee with a double-handed chokeslam. Everybody in this situation, from AJ Styles to the New Age Originals, have been victims of Brodie Lee, and kind of throughout this storyline, because he is so much less over than the others, he kind of dragged segments down. But the purpose of this segment of the storyline, of course, the larger overarching story, is the New Age Originals versus the New Age of Honor. But these last couple of months have been about trying to get Brodie Lee over, and hopefully we've done that in the build to this match and in the match itself, because it is a 15-minute wild brawl. We get a spot on the outside between Austin Aries and Tyler Black that means that the match is left between AJ Styles and Brodie Lee, and AJ Styles fighting from underneath. He looks to have the match won, going for a phenomenal forearm, but is instead hit with a big boot plucked out of the air. AJ Styles staggers back into the ropes, comes back and is hit with a black hole slam from Brodie Lee. Now you can see on screen the in-ring ratings, a 39 from Brodie Lee, but he is the man who pins AJ Styles, an 82 rating, for the 1, 2, 3. So in terms of how Brodie Lee's been presented, it may not be too much of a surprise that a 6'10" absolute wild, ravenous monster who's kind of been tamed by Austin Aries but still has that absolute animalistic rage inside of him. It may not seem that surprising that he can beat anybody in the company, but in terms of where they're standing, I think this is a hugely significant moment for Brodie Lee, without doubt the biggest win that he's had in the company, but also for AJ Styles, because he has really struggled in the 5 months that we've been Impact Wrestling. Mr. TNA coming up for Slammiversary, and just before that pay-per-view, he suffers a hugely significant defeat. After the match, a really badly hurt Austin Aries, rolls back into the ring. He's putting over just how impressed he is by Brodie Lee, and the commentators also putting over that this monster, he's been able to attack people from behind. He's been obviously so powerful and strong and booked in a way that makes it clear that he's a monster, but to get that done in the ring is a hugely significant moment for him. And I do think that that's something that I think you can tell by the way I'm speaking about it. We want to hammer home how huge it is that Brodie Lee has pinned AJ Styles cleanly in the middle of the ring. That's the most important thing as well that I've not put across. There was no shenanigans. There are no excuses for AJ Styles. He has been pinned by Brodie Lee. We then come back, obviously after the commentators discuss how we got to this point. It is Hamada defending the Impact Knockouts Championship against Aja Kong, one of the toughest challenges that she could face, and it's not that good of a match. Aja Kong isn't over. Hamada's not really getting the performances that we want from her. It is a victory for Hamada. I don't think we're going to say the rope hung cutter. I'm not sure she can do the Hamada driver, so maybe just a series of kicks to the head or whatever it is. Hamada cleanly defeats Aja Kong is the, again, takeaway from this, making defense number 1 of the Impact Knockouts Championship. She stands tall, a decisive victory over a legendary monster, and it is confirmed that Hamada will be the Knockouts champion going into that huge Slammiversary card, the biggest pay-per-view that we've had in the Impact Wrestling era thus far. As the commentators then turn attention to the upcoming main event and the huge implications that this match will have on the shape of the Slammiversary card, we're informed of an incident going on in the back. Having clearly decided to remain in the building following his words earlier, Samoa Joe is shown being escorted from the building while furiously looking to break free of security. Once Samoa Joe is sent to an exit of the building, the commentators inform us that because of his words earlier and actions that have transpired since then, Samoa Joe's potential intent of involving himself in the main event means that Impact Wrestling management have decided to kick him out of the building. How that'll have an effect on his previous words that he might be walking out on the company, he's certainly going to feel even more of a victim now. But what was most important was that he had no involvement in Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle. This match is simply too important to Impact Wrestling to risk having him do something like that. Essentially, with everything now set for the main event, the commentators introduce a video package promoting the date and venue of the next Impact Wrestling pay-per-view, which is Slammiversary, a celebration of the anniversary of the company once known as TNA Wrestling. The video package focuses on the stars of the company, both past and present, with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy and Sting all featured heavily in the package, none more so than the newest star of Impact Wrestling, Brock Lesnar. He will make his Slammiversary debut. Tickets on sale. Who is going to want to miss his potential? Well, we'll not go any further than that. But while the match he will compete in is of course unconfirmed, the words of Paul Heyman from 2 weeks ago are repeated. The fact that he is here for an Impact World Championship shot, that's what his sights are set on. But when we come back from that video package, the commentators are quick to remind us that he must first get through Kurt Angle to stand any chance whatsoever at becoming the Impact World Champion. And it's a really good rating for the main event, a superb match, an 89 rating, 100 from Kurt Angle. It's not quite the end of the save yet, but if you're looking for somebody who is my absolute favourite person in this save, it's Kurt Angle by some distance. We've pushed a lot of people, we've enjoyed a lot of people in this company, but this version of Kurt Angle, it's just not possible to put into words how amazing he is. The two having great chemistry really helps the match as well. Brock Lesnar gets a 65. Now I'm going to try and look into why exactly that is, to be fair, just in case there's anything that I can do between now and then. Can see the bonuses that he's getting. Being rusty, that's fair enough, and being inconsistent. So there's not really much we can do about that. Hopefully we get him at Slammiversary on one of his more consistent nights, and hopefully he has less ring rust. I can't really book him in like post-show matches and stuff like that. I don't think, even if that would help us for the next pay-per-view, I just can't see me doing it. And we basically booked this, albeit not a no DQ match, pretty similarly to the Brock Lesnar John Cena match from his return at Extreme Rules 2012. I really like that match. I've watched it back. A lot of people weren't happy with, of course, the decision to make John Cena win, but I kind of got it. Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar going back and forth. It's 18 minutes and 25. We want hard hitting. We want intense. We want exactly what you would expect a match from these two men to be. However, when it comes down to it, we make the decision. that Brock Lesnar goes over Kurt Angle in 18 minutes and 25 with an F5. I'm not going to make that mistake that WWE did. Of course, when you look back on it, it didn't really hurt them too much. Brock Lesnar went on to have an incredible run, a brilliant career. This time, Brock Lesnar has to come in with a win, and if you don't know what the main event of Slammiversary is going to be already, well, you will know very, very soon. He wins with an F5. I've still not thought of the name for that, so we just have to say that they call it the Verdict, which is what he called it in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think it was called the Cyclone in WWE games or something like that, or I can't remember what it was called, but I probably should have come up with a name for that because it's quite an important thing, and I don't really like the sound of the Verdict because it was playing on something that was happening back then and kind of has no relevance, so maybe we'll come up with a different name for it in time for Slammiversary. Joined in the ring by a delighted Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar stands tall, an intense figure following a hard-fought return to a professional wrestling ring. We do want to sell the struggle quite a bit during the match. I was half tempted to do the sort of second Brock Lesnar-John Cena match where he just destroys him, runs through him, casts him aside, but actually we don't just want to say that he comes back into pro wrestling and the best wrestler in the world is that easy for him. Obviously we want to put Brock Lesnar over, but I think just beating Kurt Angle is enough to do that, especially after his impressive victory last month at Lockdown when he showed that he hadn't missed a step whatsoever, put over as a match for the ages. The commentators say that Brock Lesnar looked every bit as dangerous as he had inside the octagon previously, perhaps even more so now that he is back in his natural home of professional wrestling. As the show is signed off on, the prevailing feeling is of a monumental shift in the landscape of Impact Wrestling. We've heard about Brock for weeks, we've known that this match was coming, but actually when you see him in the ring, when you see what he can do to a man like Kurt Angle, the last few minutes we still want to be quite dominant for Brock Lesnar and him pulverising and just destroying Kurt Angle to get over the fact that this is now a reality. The most decorated combat sports athlete in history is now calling this company home. That being put over by commentators and hopefully it's sinking in for everybody, well, we may have an idea what awaits Brock Lesnar at Slammiversary, his desire for the Impact World Championship. This Thursday's Impact Wrestling is heavily promoted as the only place to see all the fallout to this historic night. Now it's a 70 rating to end the show, but I do think that an 87, happy with that, a really good pay-per-view. Now I'm going to give Kurt Angle a big hug for getting that 100. Brock Lesnar is going to get compliment. He didn't have a good performance though, did he? I'm not going to go for any of the negatives. We'll give him some encouragement. That's kind of saying, well done, but you could have done better. And I think Bryan Danielson was the other star performer on the show. So we'll point him out as a good example. Might not be wise to say, hey, Brock, look at Bryan Danielson for what you should be doing. But Bryan Danielson is the example that we set in, or moreover, Kurt Angle is. We want people to be getting 100 rating. Bryan Kurt Angle match would be really interesting right now, actually. Do we try and squeeze that in before the end of the series? Is there any reason to do that other than trying to get a rating? We will look in the top 100 to see where the show lands. So it does 13th, so it's one of the better shows that we've ever done. Really happy with that. The match itself makes the top 20 just, and the attendance is second ever. The pay-per-view buys is the best that we've done in a very, very long time. So April last month was also a really good one. Absolutely delighted to see what we've done tonight, but there it is. Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 10 in 27 days time. That is going to be absolutely huge for us. Thank you for watching and continuing to follow the save to this point. I've said it every single time, but I really do appreciate anybody who is still with us after the inconsistency that has been probably the last 6 months of in-game booking. But we are now in that final month, the final stretch, and hopefully I can have some consistency. I really can't promise anything, but thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.